So what we're going to try today is using the zero product property along with the process of factoring a quadratic to solve a quadratic equation. What's very important is that we understand the zero product property first of all. The zero product property states that if A times B equals 0, one quantity times another quantity equals 0, think about your times tables. That means that one of those numbers or both of those numbers has to equal 0. The only way to get a product equal to 0 is if one or both of the factors is equal to 0. I know there's a lot of vocabulary there, but it's vocabulary that we already know very well. So the zero product property says if A times B equals 0, then that means A is 0 or B is 0 or both are 0. And so we'll use that in combination with our factoring process to solve quadratic equations by factoring. So let's take a look at how to factor first, and then we'll talk about how the zero product property comes to be part of this situation. So here we have 4x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. In order to solve this, we're going to first factor the left-hand side. It's very important that first we have our our equation set up as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if things are moved around a bit, if the x's are on the wrong side or the constant's on the wrong side, you need to change the equation just like you would to get everything on one side equals 0. All right, so let's factor to solve. Factors of 4 times negative 6, factors of negative 24, whose sum is positive 5, is going to be a negative 3 and a positive 8. Again, 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Factors of negative 24, whose sum is positive 5, are going to be a negative 3 and a positive 8. So we'll rewrite our 5x as negative 3x and positive 8x's. We'll group these first two, group these last two, and factor them accordingly. GCF here is just an x. GCF here is a 2. Again, this is still an equation, so this equation is equivalent to this one and that one, etc. So this is all equivalent expressions to itself, and all of these expressions are equal to 0. We will now factor this in its final form here. We'll put x plus 2 times 4x minus 3 equals 0. Now, that's the factoring process that we already reviewed from last semester. And what we're going to do with that now is connect this with the zero product property. So if A times B equals 0, then that means that A equals 0 or B equals 0. And we can operate under the impression that both of them are equal to 0. This gives us both solutions. Notice I said both. There could be multiple solutions to a quadratic equation. Lost my train of thought. So this will give us our two separate answers. I solved this pretty easily, subtract 2 on both sides. Here I've got a little bit of work to do. And I get my two solutions, x equals negative 2 and x equals 3/4. These will be our two solutions where we could plug this number into this original equation for x, and it would give us an output of 0. I plug in this fraction, I plug it in for x, I square it, multiply by 4, plug it in for x here, multiply by 5, add and subtract, and that should give us 0. This is how we solve by factoring. Factor the expression on the left, take the two binomial factors, set them each equal to 0, and solve them separately to get our two solutions.